here's something strange. A man most people have never heard of walked into a conversation with the president of the most powerful sports organization on earth and asked him to erase a country from the World Cup. Not because that country cheated, not because they failed to qualify, because a war is being fought and because a diplomatic relationship needed mending. And the country he wanted inserted in their place hadn't earned a spot, had not won their qualifying group, had, in fact, just become the first World Cup winning nation to miss 3 consecutive tournaments. The ask was brazen, and the fact that it was made at all tells you something important about how power currently operates. Power currently operates. Here's the detail that doesn't add up. Iran qualified for a 4th successive World Cup last year. The Washington Post, they did it on merit, through a full qualifying campaign against the same competition everyone else faced. They have a training camp arranged. Iran's government spokesperson confirmed the team is due to arrive at its training camp in Arizona no later than June 10th, at least 5 days before their first game, as required by FIFA World Cup rules. CNN FIFA own president has said Iran will be there, and yet someone, an official representative of the United States government, walked up to that same FIFA president and asked him to remove them. Not quietly, not informally. On the record to the Financial Times, consider what that means. The question isn't whether it will happen. The question is why it was asked at all. Paolo Zampolli is an Italian-American socialite, businessman, and former modeling agent who claims to have introduced Trump to his wife Melania. CNN, that is his primary credential in this story. He is currently serving as a United States Special Envoy, a title that carries the weight and reach of the office behind it. And what did he do with that title? He told the Financial Times, "I confirm I have suggested to Trump and FIFA president Gianni Infantino that Italy replace Iran at the World Cup. I'm an Italian native, and it would be a dream to see the Azzurri at a U.S.-hosted tournament." CNN read that again. A U.S. envoy speaking openly, saying his motivation is partly personal nostalgia for a football team. That sentence exists. It is in the public record. Now here is Gianni Infantino, a man who received the FIFA Peace Prize from Trump's own hands at the World Cup draw ceremony, being asked by a Trump representative to overrule the qualifying process his organization administered. Here's what we know about how this actually came together. The suggestion was reportedly part of an effort to repair ties between Trump and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni after Trump called her unacceptable and lacking courage for not supporting the Iran war. CNN, the rupture came after Meloni defended Pope Leo, the head of the Catholic Church, when Trump criticized the pontiff for his anti-war stance. "I thought she had courage, but I was wrong," Trump told Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera. CNN Meloni pushed back. And so follow the logic here. Someone in or around this administration decided that the correct diplomatic repair for a rift with a NATO ally was to hand her country a World Cup berth, using Iran as the currency. In the middle of a war, the United States is fighting against Iran. Notice what sport just became. Not a game, not even a platform, a bargaining chip. Now, walk the paper trail one step further, because this is where it gets particularly clarifying. 4 years ago, Zampolli, when he was a United Nations ambassador, wrote to Infantino saying, "The world was demanding Iran be disqualified because of the country's poor human rights record." He suggested then that the team be replaced with Italy. The request was ignored, and Iran took part and went out after the group stage. The Washington Post, he asked for the same thing before, the same man, the same swap, the same target. The earlier version was dressed in the language of human rights. This version is dressed in diplomacy. The dress changes. The ask does not. What that tells you is that this idea did not emerge from a geopolitical calculation in a situation room. It emerged from a preference that has been sitting in one man's pocket for years, waiting for a moment when the political weather might make it possible. Here's the moment everything clicks, and it lands quietly. Italy's sports minister Andrea Abodi said. It's not appropriate. You qualify on the pitch. CNN Italy's National Olympic Committee president said he would be offended. Italy's economy minister said he would be ashamed. The country this was supposedly done for to make Meloni feel better, to patch a political relationship, rejected the premise entirely on moral grounds in public within hours. And FIFA pointed back to Infantino's prior statement. Infantino said Iran, for sure, will play in the World Cup. NBC News, nobody wanted this. Not Italy, not FIFA, possibly not even Iran, which has bigger concerns. The only person on record wanting it is the man who has wanted it since 2022, now operating under a title that gives the request the color of official U.S. government policy. And here's the part that should concern all of us. Infantino has said plainly, sports should be outside of politics. CNN that statement from a man with a demonstrated close relationship with this administration, a man who received a prize from Trump. On a stage in Washington reads less like a principle and more like a prayer, because the architecture of what was attempted here is not complicated. A country at war with a World Cup participant uses a personal envoy to pressure the governing body of that sport to remove the participant. The justification shifts human rights 4 years ago, diplomacy today, but the mechanism is consistent. Use the power of the host nation, the power of proximity to the FIFA president, the power of a formal diplomatic title to bend the rules of a game that has survived 100 years precisely because those rules were supposed to be above this. Under FIFA Article 6 of the World Cup regulations, in the seemingly unlikely scenario of Iran being excluded, FIFA has discretion to call up any nation it chooses. The Washington Post, that discretion is real. It is written down, and the Asian Football Confederation would be expected to push hard for any replacement to come from Asia with the UAE, who lost a qualifying playoff to Iraq last November as the obvious candidate. The Washington Post, not Italy, not even close to Italy, which means the Italy substitution was never really about sporting logic. It was a political gesture dressed in football clothes, and that dressing is now on the floor. Two threads remain open. The first, pariah rogue state. The first, Infantino has said the right things publicly, but he has also cultivated one of the closest relationships in FIFA history with a sitting U.S. president. At what point does that relationship create a pressure that public statements cannot fully contain? The second, Iran has requested that FIFA move its group stage matches from the U.S. to Mexico, a request that was rejected. CNN, if Iran cannot play in the U.S. for reasons of safety and cannot be relocated and is then excluded on those grounds, Zampolli gets his outcome through a different door. The ask may have been rejected. The conditions that make it possible have not gone away. The World Cup begins in weeks. The scoreboard of who qualifies has always been decided on a pitch. The question now is whether it will stay that way.